WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square media station serving all of South Jersey. This is Game Night with Josh Hinnick.
It's good!
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
And he scored!
Now live from inside the Ocean Casino Resort Studio, here's Josh Hinnick.
Tuesday edition on 97.3 ESPN FM. Of course, we are live in the Ocean Casino Resort Studios. We are counting down to Phillies opening day. Not one, but two former Phillies players have spoken their minds about the state of the Phillies. We will get to their thoughts coming up here on 97.3 ESPN. As always, you guys can join the conversation, 609-403-0973. Your DMs into the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. And we are live, as always, on my YouTube channel at Josh Hennig. So, a few different things to get to here this hour. We are going to get some Phillies talk. Also, where do the Eagles currently stand among the best teams in the NFL? It's a conversation that I overheard someone else talking about last night on a podcast, and it kind of started making my brain process a little bit, maybe start agitating, trying to maybe what being a reasonable answer, right? You know, because I ran into a listener this weekend, and Todd was very emphatic that I always speak the bleeping truth. So I was thinking last night and this morning about what is a truthful, fair measurement for who and what the Philadelphia Eagles are heading into what is arguably the second phase of the NFL offseason. But that'll be a little bit later in the hour. But first, we got to get to the Phillies. Because one of the conversation points about the Phillies coming into this season, and arguably the most important part of the Phillies coming into this season, has been the conversation about the starting lineup. And for those who didn't hear, Rob Thompson basically inferred a couple days ago that they're going to alternate back and forth until they figure out what is the best version of this starting lineup. And it's a strategy that basically comes down to they have two leadoff hitters, but there apparently is no consensus in the organization of if it should be Trey Turner or Kyle Schwarber. You have two guys who have almost 600 at-bats each, 600 games each, leading off games. And so if you have that much experience from two different guys, there is a argument to be made for both of them. Well, we know the Phillies have won a ton of games. In fact, they win 60% of their games when Kyle Schwarber has been the leadoff hitter for this team. And Kyle Schwarber has hit in the leadoff spot more than any other spot in the lineup in his entire Major League career. But should he continue to be the leadoff hitter for this team? Now, I have said numerous times here on 97.3 ESPN that what has failed the Phillies in the last two postseasons has been their offense. They struck out way too many times in games 6 and 7, left way too many men on base in the NLCS a couple years ago against the Diamondbacks. And last year against the Mets, they had pretty much no ability to muster any consistent offense in a series that was arguably winnable, but they lost definitively. So for a team that has not done a lot to improve that offense, that has been much more productive in the regular season versus the postseason, the easy answer to how to make 2025 better and more of a better outcome in years past has been changing up the lineup. Well, a man who knows much more about leadoff position than you, me, or any of us do, is Jimmy Rollins. National League MVP, going into the Phillies Wall of Fame this summer. He was on the Takeoff with John Clark podcast. And I thought what Jimmy Rollins had to say on a couple of these points was very interesting because, one, Jimmy is not afraid to have an opinion. Jimmy has always spoken his mind. Okay? Is number one. Number two, his perspective, I think, comes from an angle that maybe we haven't discussed enough, which is we know that Kyle Schwarber and Trey Turner keep saying, everything's fine. I'll do whatever the team wants. But yet, what is the best for the player outside of what just they're willing to do? Well, Jimmy Rollins was asked by John Clark on the Takeoff with John Clark podcast, who should be the Phillies' leadoff hitter? Here's J-Roll.
I like the traditional lineup of having the speed up top and not bogging it down in the middle. And I think Trey did a good job there, throughout his whole career. He's bounced 1, 2, and 3. I would like to see him lead off, get him a chance to get on base, run the bases, put pressure on for the big boys when Bryce gets up there and Schwarber hitting those bombs. But I don't make those decisions. That's above my pay grade.
Now, he makes a cute little comment at the end, hey, it's above my pay grade. It should have nothing to do with me. But he makes an excellent point that putting Trey Turner at the top of the lineup allows Schwarber, Harper, and Bohm to have a different type of threat ahead of them in the lineup. And I think that is what's very interesting about this conversation, is that from a leadoff hitter's perspective, a guy in Jimmy Rollins, a guy who some people think should be in the Baseball Hall of Fame, this is a guy who says, look, if you're asking me, I'm putting the guy who's going to create the most havoc on the base paths. And for those of you out there who asked the question about, well, why doesn't Trey Turner steal bases more? Well, this probably leans into it a little bit because his role is not to just be a run generator. He has to be much more than that. And so if you put him in the leadoff hole, does that create a new dynamic for this offense? Jimmy Rollins goes on to explain why Kyle Schwarber is actually holding Trey Turner back from his full potential if Schwarber is the leadoff hitter.
Schwarber is a good hitter. He's patient at the plate. But when he's on base in front of Trey, that kind of slows Trey down, for obvious reasons. And why not turn those home runs to 2- and 3-run home runs? And I know they say you lead off once a game, but it does change the way a pitcher and the other team sets up how they face the lineup. We have speed at the top and power throughout.
Two interesting points Jimmy Rollins makes there. Number one, he says that Trey Turner is restricted by Kyle Schwarber, and that Schwarber could get more RBI if he's behind Trey Turner. Now, I would argue, just to play devil's advocate, Josh Hennick here in the Ocean Casino Resort Studios here on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle. You could argue that some of the home runs that Kyle Schwarber has hit has been literally because he is a leadoff hitter. It may be literally that Kyle Schwarber is seeing pitches in situations that he may not see if he was the 2, the 3, or the 4 hitter. Now, it doesn't diminish who Kyle Schwarber is. I think Kyle Schwarber is still a very good hitter, and he's a potential Hall of Famer, a potential All-Star every single year. But it doesn't change the fact that maybe, as Jimmy Rollins explains, that Kyle Schwarber and Trey Turner would both be more productive if Turner was the leadoff hitter. J-Roll went on to explain to John Clark on the Takeoff with John Clark podcast his own experience being forced out of the leadoff spot and having to hit somewhere else in the lineup. You may not remember, but there was a time where Jimmy Rollins was asked to hit in the 3 spot because of injuries to the Phillies in the past. And so, while historically we are familiar with Jimmy Rollins, the leadoff hitter, and the argument can be made, who is the better leadoff hitter for the Phillies? Is it Jimmy Rollins or is it Richie Ashburn? The reality is that Jimmy Rollins was the better power hitter of the 2 men. And so for the Phillies, when there were injuries, they would move Jimmy out of the leadoff spot to try to get some of that run production from his bat. Here's Jimmy explaining his experience, and he creates a parallel to what Trey Turner has been dealing with.
I had to hit third when Chase went down, and I tell you what, it's completely different than batting leadoff. And I didn't realize that until I got in that position. It's different what your job as a leadoff hitter is. You're the one to get the party started. They're not trying to pitch around you, especially not early in the game. You're going to get a couple pitches to hit, and the way that Trey can drive the ball out the yard, give him that advantage. And maybe they said it becomes more disciplined because he's getting better pitches to hit.
It's a fascinating perspective. Now, I'm not 100% sure if this solidifies the answer of who should lead off for the Phillies, whether it is Turner or whether it is Schwarber. We know the Phillies' current plan. Again, Rob Thomas talked to the media earlier this week, and he basically explained that the idea would be that they would have one lineup against left-handers, one lineup against right-handers, and that Turner would lead off against the left-handed pitchers, and Schwarber would lead off against the right-handed starting pitchers. And it's a idea that I think people are a little apprehensive about, right? They're a little like, man, you're going to change the lineup every single time you have a different pitcher on the mound. And Jimmy Rollins was asked about the idea of alternating because, listen, you already are changing certain players in and out of the lineup because of left-handed versus right-handed pitching, okay? You are already a team that is going out there and saying, we don't really like the idea of Bryson Stott, Brandon Marsh batting against left-handed pitchers whenever we can get away with it. So you could argue that the reality is that the Phillies are already putting out a different lineup each and every week. So Jimmy Rollins was asked what he thinks about that idea of alternating Turner and Schwarber in the leadoff spot. This is what Jimmy Rollins told John Clark.
If it's something that's discussed beforehand and both guys are comfortable with it, then it's whatever. A lineup can flip that way. I think it's stuff we can go from 1 to 3 and back and forth. But 1-2, in that situation, knowing that it's lefty or righty, you know who you're facing, and both guys are comfortable with it, then cool. But if both guys want to be left alone, pick me a spot and let me be there, then that's what it will be.
Now, we do know, based on what Kyle Schwarber, Trey Turner have told the media already this year, is that they are willing to bat wherever the Phillies ask them to. That there is a attitude among the players on this team that we'll do whatever it takes to win. Okay? And that's what leads me to former Phillies general manager, and people might remember, former Phillies player, Ruben Amaro, who now you hear on the TV broadcast for the Phillies. He talked about on the Phillies Show podcast about this idea of alternating back and forth, right? The idea of when the left-handers are on the mound, it's going to be Turner. When the right-handers are on the mound, it's going to be Schwarber. This is what Ruben Amaro had to say about that type of strategy on the Philly Show podcast.
I love it. I know that guys, want to feel comfortable in their slot and that kind of stuff, but they have a kind of guys, especially the first 4 or 5 hitters. I don't think they really care where they hit in the lineup, other than perhaps Harper. I think Harper probably wants to hit 2 or 3. but again, he's part of this formula as well. I just think that they're fine with it if they feel like this is the best thing for the team.
And that's really where it comes down to for me. I look back on what failed this team the last couple years. Their bats have failed them. Remember, they set a World Series record for strikeouts in a World Series. Later in the NLCS, they couldn't get a hit if their life depended on it against the Diamondbacks in Game 6 and 7 at home, might I remind you. And then, on top of all of that, last year, they got shut down by the Mets pitching staff. Your division rivals took you out. So maybe, just maybe, the answer is going to be having this platoon lineup. Not just Sosa playing for Stott or Rojas playing for Marsh. It's going to be more of we have a different lineup out there. And Ruben Amaro Jr. goes back to his own memory of what he remembers the Phillies doing when he played for the 1993 Phillies that went to the World Series.
I don't have any problem with them tweaking the lineup, especially lefty-righty. It's been happening. It's happened for years. I mean, Jim Fregosi had 2 lineups in 1993. Three different platoons.
Yeah.
Hey, man, if it works, go with it. And I do think that if this lefty-righty shift, if it has success, guess what? He's going to stay with it.
And I think that's the interesting part at the end there. That if this is working, the Phillies will stay with it, which creates a new dynamic. If it works to start the season, and let's say they start the year off very well, offensively, what happens when it stops going well? Because we know in baseball, historically, and Ruben Amaro Jr. and Jimmy Rollins know this as well as anyone, that things can go wrong along the way. Guys go into slumps. Injuries happen. So if you get to a point in May or June where this alternating lineup doesn't work, how long do you stay with it? How long are you willing to let it play out and work itself out? These are questions that we are going to find out as the season goes on. Josh Hennig hanging out with you here on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City. We're also live on my YouTube channel at Josh Hennig. Coming up on the other side, we'll hear from you guys on the text board. Dan and EHT, George Summers Point, your text and more is still to come, and your final opportunity to qualify for Phillies opening day tickets and Metallica at Lincoln Financial Field. That is still to come in about 35 minutes from now. All that and more here in the Power Hour. Josh Hennig hanging out with you on 97.3 ESPN.
With GMF financing to qualified buyers excludes Traversing Corvette, excludes prior sales.
It's back! It's Bennett Chevy's most popular event, March Markdowns, for the entire month of March. So get to Bennett right now for savings up to 20%. That's right, you get up to 20% off. That's because Bennett sells new Chevys at the true GM supplier employee price, plus gives you all the rebates. So get to Bennett Chevy now and save even more with available 0% financing. Looking for used? Bennett Chevy is South Jersey's largest certified dealer with great savings on every single one. And during March Markdowns, you'll get a minimum 10 grand for the worst clunker towards any pre-owned in stock. That's at least $10,000. Imagine how much you'll get for a good trade. And our non-commissioned sales team is the best. They're paid on your satisfaction, not your budget and how much you spend. So everybody gets our famous no pressure, friendly, and helpful service. Together, let's drive during March Markdowns at Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm. An important message about your timeshare from Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group.
If you receive an unsolicited phone call or mail piece to discuss selling, renting, or especially canceling your timeshare, don't fall for it. Contact your timeshare resort or Wesley Financial Group for assistance, and I'll send you our timeshare exit information kit free with the straight facts about timeshare cancellation.
Call 800-506-3355. 800-506-3355.
Paid for by Wesley Financial Group.
You've made all your college hoops picks, but there's only one pick that's a lock every time. The Piccalilli Inn in Chemung. Stop in for all the college hoops action and order a basket of their world-famous wings, tails, and ears from one of 10 mouth-watering flavors like spicy, hot honey, garlic parm, teriyaki, and more for eat-in or carry-out. Get $9 Blue Moon pitchers and Piccalilli game day favorites you'll only find in the Pines. Get your chicken wing fix on Route 206 at the family-owned Piccalilli Inn. For specials, join the flock and follow the pick on Facebook.
Gain Super Flings are here to take your laundry to the next level.
Talking about Gain Super Flings. Super size laundry packs. These things are huge. Super fresh, super clean. Gain Super Flings.
Gain Super Flings laundry packs have 4 times the Oxy cleaning power and 3 times the Febreze freshness versus Gain Original Liquid.
Super fresh, super clean. Gain Super Flings.
Gain Super Flings for next level laundry.
Progressive knows there are some surprisingly expensive things in life, like frames, because you found a classic 70s concert poster. But when you went to get it framed, you realized the frame will cost about 4 times the amount of the poster, which is actually absurd because no one will be looking at the frame, and if they are, then you severely overestimated how cool this poster is. But then you remember by switching your home and auto to Progressive, you could save hundreds and put it towards a classic 70s concert poster in an absurdly overpriced frame. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states.
From the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network, I'm Chief Meteorologist Dan Zarrow. A few rain showers may clip South Jersey this evening. Otherwise, expect scattered clouds and chilly temperatures overnight. We'll bottom out around 39 by morning. And tomorrow will be cooler overall with sun and clouds, high of 53. Thursday still on the cool side with mostly sunny skies, high 52. Increasing clouds and 59 on Friday and a chance of late-day rain showers. Get weather 24/7 wherever you are. Download our free mobile app today.
Up with Seize the Deal for incredible weekly offers from some fantastic local restaurants. Here's this week's big deal.
Get a $50 gift card good for use at the Cheese Board, Central Square in Linwood for just $25.
Get this great deal starting Friday at 9 a.m. at seizethedeal.com. Hurry, chances are this deal will sell quickly. For more info on this great deal, go to seizethedeal.com.
SeizeTheDeal.com.
This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
I've told Trey, I may have even told Schwarber, I was like, you guys should be tired of hearing about it. I was tired of hearing about 1980. So you guys should feel the same way. Be the next team. Be so tired of hearing about 08 that when you win your championship, it's like you guys can no longer talk about them. That's old news. We're the new guys in town. So that's the only way to get it done.
Jimmy Rollins on his message when he spoke to Kyle Schwarber and Trey Turner at spring training saying, hey, your guys' goal should have people stop talking about 2008 and have people start talking about this team. Interesting message there from Jimmy Rollins on the Takeoff with John Clark podcast. Josh Hennick hanging out with you here in the Ocean Casino Resort Studios on 97.3 ESPN. As promised, let's get to the text board at 609-403-0973. Your DMs into the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. Also, we are live on my YouTube channel at Josh Hennig. George at Summers Point chimes in. Says, hey, Josh, the promise of putting Turner in the leadoff spot assumes that he gets on base at least 3 of the 10 times. He has not shown that yet in his time with the Phillies. J-Roll was a prototypical leadoff hitter, but I don't believe Turner is, that's George from Summers Point. Well, George, I think you got a little recency bias there. And I think what you're doing is you are looking at who Trey Turner has been recently, and you haven't looked at who he has been historically. Yes, overall, Trey Turner in a Phillies uniform has only been getting on base 32.8% of the time. His career average is just under 35% of the time. When he was playing for the Nationals and for the Dodgers, he was closer to 36. So, yes, if you do a literal stat comparison, Trey Turner has not been getting on base. Now, remember, he had that horrible slump his first year in Philadelphia, and he's taken off a bit since he first got here, right? From that standing ovation onward, and then most of last year, he played much better overall. His on-base percentage, his batting average, everything went up last year. So I think what you're doing is you're looking at it in terms of just what you have seen from Trey Turner in the last couple of years, and you're looking at the fact that when he has been a leadoff hitter, Trey Turner, he has a higher batting average, a higher on-base percentage, a higher slugging percentage than when he is a two-hitter. He even has a better batting average with men on base as a leadoff hitter than as a two-hitter. So every metric shows that in the almost 500 games that Trey Turner has been a leadoff hitter, compared to the 470 games he has been a two-hitter, actually 472, but I digress. In the 400, almost 500 games, one versus the other, Trey Turner has just been a better player as a leadoff hitter than as a two-hitter. The only stat that he is not better at as a leadoff hitter versus a two-hitter is the strikeouts. But I think that number is a little deceptive because of the fact that Trey Turner was a leadoff hitter very early on in his career. And Trey Turner had to evolve into the hitter that he is today. People may not remember this, but early in his career, he did have some strikeout problems. He became much better at that. So that stat's a little misleading, okay? And remember, in 2023, he had the most strikeouts he ever had in a season. He went from 150 to 98 strikeouts from 2023 to 2024. So there obviously is a progression with Trey Turner. There is obviously a player who has shown you in 2024 when he became an all-star again that is probably more in line with what his potential is than what you saw in 2023. So I think George Summers' point, the problem is that when you have a little recency bias, or when you focus on just one part of his career, you're not looking at the bigger picture. I think Trey Turner, as Jimmy Rollins said, is a prototype leadoff hitter, because you look at Turner's numbers, he is a guy who has historically been a high base stealer. Last year, when he only had 19 stolen bases, that was the fewest he has had in a season since he was injured when he was injured and the shortened season in 2020. Remember, the COVID season was shortened and he didn't play all the games in the COVID shortened season. His first year in Philadelphia, he did have 30 stolen bases. His 162-game average for his career is 40. His career average is 296 batting average, 348 on base percentage, and 481 slug. That's his career averages. If you get that out of him, I think we'll all be more than happy, Jordan's point, with whatever we get out of Trey Turner. So don't let Trey Turner's worst moments deter you from him doing well when he is put in a position to be successful. I think that is the misnomer that comes with some of this. Dan and EHT chimes in at 609-403-0973. He says most times hitters should move around in the lineup to give them a reset. Baseball is a real grind day to day. Most of all the Phillies lineup will produce no matter what order you put them in. And that's kind of the sentiment that Ruben Amaro was giving. Dan EHT, the idea that, listen, as long as your top four stay the same in some capacity, Turner, Schwarber, Harper, Bohm, Ruben Amaro Jr. believes that some order of those four guys are going to be able to be productive in some way. And that's why my question about alternating the lineup, right? This idea that you're going to have one lineup versus lefties, one lineup versus righties, and in one lineup, Turner's the leadoff hitter, and the other lineup, Schwarber is the leadoff hitter. I don't know if that's enough to give a guy a real reset, right? Because you're right, baseball is a real grind. 162 is a long, torturous season at times for guys. And so I think, Danny HT, there is something to be said for the fact that when you look at the Phillies, does alternating the lineup, depending on the pitcher, allow the hitters to have enough of a reset, enough of a recalibration from one night to the other? Or are we talking about changing a lineup for a week? Because to me, that's what a real reset is. A reset is, hey, name anybody. Nick Castellanos, Brandon Marsh, whoever has struggled in recent years. You've been hitting 5. We're going to hit you 6 or 7. And I think at some point this year, the Phillies are going to have to have an honest conversation about who and what Castellanos and Realmuto are in this lineup. Because both men have been underwhelming at times and have been disappointing at times during their recent Phillies tenure. And again, if the lineup is going to be something along the lines of, and I'm just putting it out there just because based on what they've done in spring training, Turner, Schwarber, Harper, Bohm, Kepler as the 5, Castellanos at 6. Right now, they want to put Realmuto at 7 and then Stott 8, Marsh 9. But at what point do we have to have an honest conversation about, is that the best lineup for the Phillies? You still need to break up those hitters to some extent. 609-403-0973. Chris chimes in and says, I think Turner is going to take a major step back to who he is and become our new Chase Utley. Thanks for reading my text. Step forward, not step back. He was an absolute monster in Washington. Chris, you're right. I think that what gets forgotten about in Trey Turner's tenure is that not just Washington, he was very good with the Dodgers too. I think the key for Turner is going to be, if he does become the leadoff hitter, does he become a better run producer? Because in Philadelphia, you look at his numbers and you realize that he's still getting on base at times, but he's not scoring the number of runs that he used to. His batting average and his on-base percentage went up last year, but his number of runs scored dropped considerably. So how do we account for that? How do we account for a guy that the last time that he played at least 120 games in a season, he still had 96 runs scored? How are you still below that number? I think that's where the concern is, right, Chris, is that if you are a team like the Phillies and you're paying Trey Turner $300 million and you're not getting the full return on investment for the guy, you were paying for the guy who was in Washington. You were not paying for the guy that you've gotten so far. Tom from the Villas chimes in on the text board at 609-403-0973. Tom from the Villas says, kind of off topic, but it is a baseball question. When the robot umpire comes to Major League Baseball full time, will a good catcher's ability to frame the plate become obsolete? Tom from the Villas, I say yes and no, because remember, just because there is a static strike zone doesn't change the fact that the catcher still needs to frame it, not just for the umpire, but framing is just as much for the hitter, okay? There's a lot of times that as a catcher, the hitter will take a peek back to see where you're set up to try to get a hint at where the ball is going to be. And that's why some catchers will set up in the middle of the plate, and then as the pitcher's in the middle of his windup, he'll move. But not every pitcher likes that. There are some pitchers that want the catcher to be perfectly still in his spot. So the framing and the, shall I call it, the showmanship that comes with playing the catcher position doesn't fully go away just because the balls and strikes are automated. And remember, the catcher still has to catch the ball if it's a foul tip for it to be an out, or it's thrown down to first base. And we know that those plays can be chaotic sometimes. I myself played catcher in college, and there were many pitchers I knew who would tell me they didn't like, and I've heard the same thing from other guys at the major league level in interviews. You know, Kurt Schilling was a guy who was like this, for example. I'm trying to remember who the other Phillies pitcher years ago who was like this. Randy Wolf. Randy Wolf talked about this as well. And that is, major league pitchers don't like the catcher moving. And the same thing happened to me when I was in high school. I tried to do that where I lined up in one spot and moved to the other spot, and the pitcher, it threw him completely off, and he told me never do that again. And I was like, all right, man, won't do it again. You know? But what happens is if you don't move around, if you can't deceive the hitter, what happens is when the hitter is in the box, as the pitcher is in his windup, might peek back at the catcher and see, all right, he's set up inside. All right, he's set up low and away. And it gives the hitter a little bit of an extra tell, a little bit extra information as the pitcher's coming at him. So I don't think the framing becomes obsolete, Tom, in the Villas, because to me, the catcher's framing of the plate is just as important for dealing with the hitter as it is with handling the pitcher and handling the umpire. So, again, that's at least my perspective on it. More your text coming up in just a bit. 609-403-0973. Your DMs into the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. Josh Hennig hanging out with you on a Tuesday night.
Score a huge three-pointer this month during the Matt Blatt Kia Gladness Sale. 0 down, 0 payments for 90 days, or low 1.9% financing for 60 months on every new Kia Sportage and Sorento SUV in stock. Here's a steal. Get up to $5,000 more than Kelley Blue Book fair market value for any trade. Toward the purchase of any new 2024 Kia with no payments till June. How about a 3-point play? 0 down, 0 payments until June on over 1,100 new Kias in stock, or low 1.9% financing for 60 months, plus 120% more for your trade. It's Gladness, baby, at Matt Blatt Kia in Abington, Egg Harbor Township, and Tom's River, or right to your front door.
It's gotta be a Matt Blatt Kia.
With approved credits, $1,389 per thousand financed. Not all will qualify. Credit may affect down payments. Offers can't be combined. Trade less miles and dealer recon on new 2024 Kia purchase. Go to mattblattkianj.com for complete details, or 888-505-6670. Price includes all costs to be paid by consumer, except for licensing, registration, and taxes through KMF. Rebates and incentives to dealer. Expires 4/4/25. Matt Blatt Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township, and on Route 37 in Tom's River.
Hey, can you blow up some balloons for Jack's party?
I can't. I'm so congested.
You need Sinex Saline from Vicks.
Sinex Saline Nasal Spray.
Yeah, just Sinex. Breathe.
Sinex Saline instantly clears everyday congestion associated with colds and year-round allergies with a gentle, ultra-fine mist that's no mess and easy to control.
Daddy, we need more balloons.
On it.
Enjoy life's important moments without congestion. Try Sinex Saline from Vicks. Just Sinex. Breathe. Use as directed.
Attention lovebirds, your perfect moment deserves the perfect ring. Get up to 50% off during Sage Jewelers' exclusive engagement ring sale.
Discover brilliant, natural, and stunning lab-grown diamonds designs, each crafted to capture the beauty of your forever love. But don't wait, this sale won't last.
Visit Sage Jewelers on Tilton Road in Northfield or shop online at sagejewelers.com. Your love story starts here.
As a fan, you know all the important sports cliches. And when you save money by bundling your home and auto with Progressive, you can get out there and give it 110%, even though that's mathematically impossible. And remember, failure is not an option. Well, it's always an option, just not a good one. But you're not worried because you've got ice in your veins. You're on fire. How can both of those things be true at the same time? Well, that's between you and your doctor. So get out there and leave it all on the field. Leave what? Who cares? Just leave it and save with a bundle from Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers. Not available in all states or situations.
This is New Jersey Human Services Commissioner Sarah Edelman. Home health aides and direct support professionals are in high demand, and this important part of our workforce is essential in helping older adults and individuals with disabilities to live active, engaged lives. New Jersey Human Services can help connect you with jobs and training in these critical and rewarding fields. Make a difference in the lives of others while empowering your own future. Visit jobsthatcare.nj.gov today. That's jobsthatcare.nj.gov.
When you're hiring, have you ever felt like you're missing out on meeting truly great candidates for your roles? It seems impossible to find them, but they have to be out there somewhere, right? Well, they're not hard to find when you know where to go, and that place is ZipRecruiter. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter helps 10 million people with their job search every day. And because these people are actively looking for jobs just like yours, it's easy to find the right person right away. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. But if you're not using ZipRecruiter, you're missing out. So see what it's like when the impossible is easy. When you go to ZipRecruiter.com/radio right now to try ZipRecruiter for free. Once again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. Never miss out on great candidates with ZipRecruiter.
Same game parlays and slot games for days. Double the fun with the Ballybet app. Let's play. You can bet on football, basketball, baseball, or play blackjack, roulette, even baccarat, y'all. It's double the fun, 2 apps in one. Download it today, but only if you're 21. The Ballybet Sportsbook and Casino app. You can win real money on your phone. No cap. Must be 21 plus, New Jersey only. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Ballybet Sportsbook and Casino.
Download it. Texting enrolls you into recurring automated text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
Hey, Dan, how you doing? Haven't seen you around the gym for a while.
Yeah, I've really fallen off. Since I turned 40, I just don't get the results I used to get.
Could be lower testosterone.
Lower T?
Yeah, I went through it a while back. Once you hit 40, your body has less free testosterone. I got Nugenix Total T, and it's made a huge difference for me.
I've seen that ad on TV. Is it for real?
Oh, yeah. The key ingredient is something called Tesnor, which helps boost free and total testosterone levels to help you trim up and stay lean.
And it's made a difference for you?
Man, I feel like I'm in my 20s again. At work, in the gym, and in the bedroom.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles for people to try it for themselves?
Yeah, you just need to send them a text.
Text ALL to 321-321 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T, the #1 selling testosterone booster at GNC. Plus, text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, our most powerful fat incinerator ever, to help you get back into shape fast, absolutely free. Text ALL to 321-321. That's all to 321-321.
With GMF financing to qualified buyers excludes Traverse and Corvette excludes prior sales.
It's back! It's Bennett Chevy's most popular event, March Markdowns, for the entire month of March. So get to Bennett right now for savings up to 20%. That's right, you get up to 20% off. That's because Bennett sells new Chevys at the true GM supplier employee price, plus gives you all the rebates. So get to Bennett Chevy now and save even more with available 0% financing. Looking for used? Bennett Chevy is South Jersey's largest certified dealer with great savings on every single one. And during March Markdowns, you'll get a minimum 10 grand for the worst clunker towards any pre-owned in stock. That's at least $10,000. Imagine how much you'll get for a good trade. And our non-commissioned sales team is the best. They're paid on your satisfaction, not your budget and how much you spend. So everybody gets our famous no pressure, friendly, and helpful service. Together, let's drive during March Markdowns at Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennick on 97.3 ESPN and on the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
I don't really see there being anybody that we can't beat. It's just a matter of, one, as you said, being healthy. If we're healthy, I don't think there's anyone that can beat us. It's not going to be easy, and it never is, but I still think we have the best team in the East.
That was Jimmy Rollins again from the Take Off with John Clark podcast. He seems pretty confident, like Dan and EHT is, about the Phillies' upcoming season. Dan from EHT says the Phillies will win 90 games. They're a very talented team, but they need to sign a guy like Vlad Guerrero, get him at the trade deadline. They also need Painter to contribute in some capacity. Then they are World Series bound. The Vlad Guerrero conversation to me is fascinating because the Vlad Guerrero conversation has a lot to do with two very separate situations. The one is the fact that Vlad Guerrero Jr., according to reports, has not been happy with how the Blue Jays have tried to negotiate with him. And if we look around Major League Baseball at what other players have been getting, right? I think it's fair to say that Vlad Guerrero's contract is going to be probably at least close to the range of what Juan Soto got. Because Juan Soto got a 15-year deal worth up to, what was it? I know it's 15 years, $765 million. So I'm going to assume that Vlad doesn't have the resume that Soto has. Soto is currently 25 years old, and he has had a much more dynamic career than Vlad so far. Vlad is going to be a little older than him when he hits the free agent market. Soto in part got that deal because he was 24 turning 25. Guerrero is going to be 25 turning 26. So, and I think some people look at Soto as, hey, he's a dynamic young player. Vlad Guerrero is just a big power first baseman. So let's say instead of getting 15 for $765, you're talking about Guerrero getting 12 for $600. Are the Phillies really willing to give up a package of prospects for a guy who either you re-sign for that big of a contract or you let him walk in free agency? That's the difficulty with the Vlad Guerrero conversation. Because if you were going to get that kind of player, you could have just signed Pete Alonso. For those who don't remember, Pete Alonso was a free agent. And he didn't sign with the Mets till very late in the game. 2 years, $54 million is the kind of contract Philadelphia could have dished out. And remember, Alonso didn't sign until around February 12th. That's when they finalized the deal. The Phillies could have swept in way before that and tried to angle for a right-handed first baseman, but they didn't. So I think the combination of those factors definitely makes me wonder if you are going to be a team that would make that kind of deal. Now, the Andrew Painter thing is interesting before we wrap it up here with the Phillies. Painter is interesting because of the reality that the Phillies are going to slow roll him, and you probably will not see him at the major league level until June or July or maybe even August, depending on how the season goes. If you bring him up, who comes out of the rotation? Do you basically just pitch Suarez until the wheels fall off and then call up Painter? Do you go to a 6-man rotation and put Painter in there? There's a lot of questions that go with bringing up a guy like Andrew Painter that we don't have answers for yet. So I'm not depending on that necessarily. And I think that for the Phillies, they are in a situation where if they're not willing to pay a guy like Pete Alonso, they're not going to get a guy like Vlad Guerrero. And I think that's why the deadline deal is probably going to be something closer to a above average player acquired to just upgrade the starting lineup. I don't think a guy like Vlad Guerrero is coming to Philadelphia because he's going to be demanding a lot of money in free agency, and it's probably taking a lot to get him away from the Toronto Blue Jays. All right, Josh Hennick here on 97.3 ESPN. We'll get to the Eagles conversation more tomorrow because, again, I was listening to a podcast last night, and they were talking about who are the best teams in the NFL, and they didn't really talk much about the Eagles. And the explanation was, well, the Eagles have lost a lot of guys. And I keep hearing that point from people, but it's like, you know they lost guys who were not all starters. But, again, we'll get into that conversation tomorrow. Thanks, everybody, for texting in to the show. We're running out of real estate here. Coming up, your final opportunity to qualify to win Phillies home opener tickets or tickets to Metallica at Lincoln Financial Field. Your final opportunity to win is right now. That is the final sounder of the big Maynard's Sports Bash with Mike Gill contest. You heard that sounder. That means callers 6 and 7 and a bonus caller. You are in at 609-573-3776. 609-573-3776. You are in for the Phillies home opener tickets or Metallica at Lincoln Financial Field. Your chance to win this Thursday. Maynard's in Margate. You must be present to win. But you got to be on the phone line. You got to get it. It's your last opportunity to qualify for the contest. Speak now or forever hold your peace. 609-573-3776. I'm Josh Hennig. Have a great night, everybody.
Matt Platt Mitsubishi makes upgrade.